The Santa Cruz is a special river. It's unique in that it starts in the San Rafael Valley and it flows into Mexico, and then it flows north and crosses back into the U.S. So it's the only river that crosses the U.S.-Mexico border twice.
Historically, people have congregated around the river's edge.
We've had people living in the region for over 12,000 years.
Why would this make a good area for farming? You got a lot of rivers. You got two rivers. You got the Santa Cruz River over there.
It was dried up basically by groundwater pumping.
Pima County is responsible for the major watercourses around town.
Tucson would not have the Sweetwater wetlands, wouldn't have the Santa Cruz River flowing at all without recycled water.
But in this area, it's been possible to get some of that back, some of what we lost back.
Is put the hydrolab sonde in the water to take all the water chemistry. So this measures everything from water temperature to turbidity and also pH and total dissolved solids. So it gives an indication of the water quality during the survey. Today we came out here to sample macroinvertebrates. A macroinvertebrate is a small organism that you can see with your naked eye. That doesn't have a backbone. So in our case, we're sampling aquatic macroinvertebrates, so what you'll find in the water. There's a whole bunch of different macroinvertebrates, from little worms to snails and crustaceans, all kinds of different bugs that use the water as their first step into this world.
The Santa Cruz River in this area has a flow that's augmented by the discharge of municipal effluent. Treated sewage, basically, that is treated to a very high standard and then discharged to the river. And that makes possible a lot of things that you aren't going to see in a lot of other river systems that run just on floodwaters, because this part of the Santa Cruz River has year-round flow.
With us finding more pollution-sensitive macroinvertebrates throughout the 4 years, it's actually shown an improvement in the streamline health. Because 4 years ago on the baseline, before the water treatment facility upgrades, we just didn't see some of these same families and taxa of macroinvertebrates that are showing up now. Prior to the upgrades to the 2 water treatment facilities in 2013, we basically had a perennial system, but it was due to this clogging layer, which we call a schmutzdecke, or it's basically a layer of algae, a biofilm, bacteria that builds up, and the water just can't infiltrate.
But what happened was the water, instead of infiltrating down into the groundwater as it was designed to do, the water would continue to flow northward towards Pinal County. And essentially, Tucson's water was not staying in Tucson.
So since the upgrades, we've seen the bacteria and algae that thrive on high nitrogen and high phosphorus. The water treatment facilities took away the nitrogen 20-fold, and the phosphorus was also greatly reduced. Now there's more infiltration and groundwater recharge.
And the water is now staying here. It's estimated that 20,000 acre-feet per year are staying here in Tucson.
People have congregated around the river's edge, and that was happening in the 1980s. The river channels themselves were unstabilized or unprotected at the time, and people were allowed to develop right up to the bank's edge. Again, historically, people congregated and lived near water, so we had noticed that there was a large potential for loss of property and public safety. So that really reinforced the efforts from the federal level and the local level to protect the watercourses. And that was the initial front from development on the rivers. And secondarily, we came in and said there was a need to maintain those infrastructure pieces. So we developed setback areas in the hazard zones. which again turned into river park corridors and also maintenance corridors.
Fortunately, when we have our big rainstorms, the river is pretty resilient. The vegetation, a lot of the vegetation just kind of leans over and is able to withstand the floods.
Here we're in an area where there are two primary water courses. There's a large drainage behind me that we all know is the Santa Cruz River.
There have been a lot of different people living along the river for thousands of years now, dating back to early hunter-gatherers that came into the region, to early Native American groups that were farming along the river. And this region, we're able to call this region home because of the Santa Cruz River. It's the source of water for everyone that has come to this region.
This is an area that was being used for agriculture. They're about 1,000 years old. We excavated pit houses, storage pits, cooking pits. Recovered a lot of artifacts, a lot of ceramic pottery, painted pottery. Uncovering one of these channels so that we could get a closer look at it from above, and realized that he was looking at the impression of a human footprint.
It's part of the heritage of this whole area.
Understanding and caring about the past and caring about preservation and how we go about actually learning from the past and how archaeological projects locally happen in the first place.
A flowing river, you know, with fish and frogs and the kind of wildlife that's attracted to it, the birds, is very different than what you'll see in most of Tucson.
All of a sudden, this is not just a river of effluent. It's a river of really high quality water. With other people laying claim on this water, what we foresee is the danger of a loss of these riparian areas. The Santa Cruz River is probably the reason that Tucson has a position in the international economy right now. So it is a vibrant, very important part of our history, of our economy, of our recreational, educational opportunities, of our wildlife. The Santa Cruz River needs to continue flowing.